A woman named Anna was sleeping peacefully at night with her husband. But then, in the early morning, their bedroom door slowly opened. In the darkness, a small girl stood there without saying a word, only silently staring at the couple. Anna's husband, in a half-awake, half-asleep state, stood up and walked toward the girl. However, as soon as he approached, the girl suddenly lunged to attack his neck directly. In just a few seconds, the whole room immediately echoed with horrific screams. Anna frantically pushed the girl out of the room and immediately slammed the door shut. She tried to stop her husband's bleeding, but his condition grew worse with every passing second. Overwhelmed by fear, Anna called the hospital, but no one answered. At that moment, her husband, who had just died a short while ago, slowly stood up. His eyes had completely changed, and he was no longer human. He went mad and lunged to attack Anna. Anna tried to defend herself and then ran to hide in the bathroom. But immediately after, her husband used all his strength to break down the door. Anna, in a state of panic, opened the window. At the last moment, she pushed her husband away and jumped outside. Just having escaped the house, Anna immediately ran toward her car. Then she saw her neighbor standing in front of her, holding a gun. Anna begged him for help, but the man pointed the gun at her and told her to step back. Before Anna could understand what was happening, an ambulance rushed in at extreme speed and crashed directly into the man, sending him flying. She looked around and realized that the entire city had turned into hell. Right then, her husband, who had turned into a zombie, rushed out of the house and ran straight toward her. Anna immediately crawled into the car. Her trembling hands tried to insert the key into the ignition. Anna floored the gas with all her might and drove away from that place. On the way, she saw only death and destruction everywhere. Suddenly, a man opened her car door and tried to hijack the vehicle. In her panic, Anna kicked him out. But at that same moment, the car lost control and crashed directly into a tree. A long time later, Anna regained consciousness. She slowly stepped out of the car, but immediately someone pointed a cold gun barrel at her head. The man pointing the gun at Anna introduced himself as Kenneth. He was a strong and tough police officer. Initially, he looked at Anna with suspicious eyes, worried that she had also turned into a zombie. But once certain that Anna was still human, he lowered his gun. In this ruined world, both had nowhere left to go, so Anna decided to go with him. On the way, they went under a bridge and met 3 more survivors. Among them was a man named Michael. Traveling with him were Andre and his wife, Luda. Through conversation, they learned that the path Kenneth wanted to take was swarmed with thousands of zombies. Michael said that their group originally had 8 people, but now only 3 survived. Afterward, everyone decided that the safest place right now was a large nearby shopping mall because the outside world had completely collapsed. They smashed the glass of the mall and went inside. Everyone moved forward slowly and stopped at a place to rest. Michael checked the main doors of the mall, and they were relieved to know that at the time the virus broke out, the mall had not yet opened. That meant the undead had not yet gotten inside. To ensure safety, everyone split up to check different areas of the mall. Kenneth stayed behind with a gun to protect the women, while Michael and Andre went to check other entrances. But they did not know that even inside this seemingly quiet mall, death was still silently waiting for them somewhere. When Michael stepped into a clothing store, he was immediately alert upon seeing blood spreading on the floor. For self-defense, he picked up a hammer nearby. Just then, he saw something moving in the room ahead. Michael slowly opened the door and saw a zombie inside tearing a human apart. Hearing the noise, the zombie immediately turned to look at Michael and lunged to attack him with extreme speed. On the other side, the rest of the group standing in the hall also heard the screams. But right then, another zombie suddenly rushed from behind to attack Luda. It was about to bite her when Kenneth used the butt of his gun to strike the zombie hard, pushing it back. Seeing the situation spiral out of control, Anna picked up the gun from the ground and shot down the zombie. Meanwhile, to save his own life, Michael picked up a broken piece of wood and used all his strength to stab it directly into the zombie's head. As soon as the wood pierced the brain, the zombie died on the spot. At this point, everyone began to understand that the only way to stop these monsters was to attack their heads directly. After that attack, everyone decided that the first floor of the mall was no longer safe. Therefore, they decided to take the elevator to the second floor. But as soon as the elevator doors opened, several guns were pointed directly at their heads. In front of them were 3 mall security guards. The leader was an extremely arrogant guy named CJ. Accompanying him were Terry and Bart. CJ clearly declared that from now on, he would be the one setting the rules in this mall. Having no other choice, Anna and the others were forced to surrender their weapons to him. By this time, the mall was completely under CJ's control. The situation was so bad that Andre had to ask CJ's permission even to take his wife, Luda, to the restroom. But the truth was that the 2 of them were not going to the restroom, but to check Luda's hidden wound. because during the previous attack, she had been bitten by a zombie, and at that time, no one yet knew that a zombie bite could turn a human into something like them. On the TV, emergency news broadcasts were continuously aired. In the broadcast, it was announced that there was only one way to stop these zombies, which was to attack their heads. And if one wanted to destroy them completely, their bodies must be burned. Hearing that, fear was evident on everyone's faces, because now they understood how terrifying the disaster outside was. Michael told CJ that just hiding in the mall was not a solution. Zombies could break in at any time, so they needed to strengthen defenses and prepare a distress signal. For the first time, CJ agreed with his words. Afterward, the 3 security guards went throughout the mall to eliminate stray zombies, while the others went up to the roof and used paint to write a large SOS so that helicopters or the military could see them. Just then, gunfire rang out from the building opposite. Everyone looked over and saw a man named Andy trapped on the roof of that building. At the same time, a military helicopter appeared in the sky. Everyone was filled with hope, waving their hands for help. For a few moments, everyone thought they might be about to be rescued, but the helicopter did not stop and flew straight away. The small hope that had just appeared also immediately vanished in disappointment. Everyone returned inside the mall, but the situation had not improved at all. CJ locked Anna and her friends down in a furniture store. Michael felt that if the 3 guards continued to rule in such a dictatorial manner, one day they would all be killed. So he began to call on everyone to stand up against them, but no one would cooperate with him. Andre at this time only cared about his wife and their unborn child. Kenneth still wanted to search for his fellow police officers, while Anna had almost completely broken down. She just lay silently on the sofa like a person who had lost all spirit. From the outside, this group seemed like a team surviving together, but inside, each person was breaking down in their own way. The next morning, Anna cleverly persuaded Terry, and he secretly opened the door for them to go out. At the same time, Andre and Kenneth were talking to each other. Andre said that before, he had never truly feared death, but now he was afraid because his child was about to be born into this horrible world. Just then, a large explosion suddenly rang out outside the mall. A large truck crashed through the barricades and rushed straight inside. Hearing the noise, everyone immediately ran to the roof. Upon arriving, the 2 groups faced off again. Michael took the opportunity to snatch the gun from Bart's hand. At that moment, Kenneth also quickly subdued CJ's gun. In just a few seconds, the situation was completely reversed. Those who previously ordered, dominated, and oppressed others were now turned into prisoners. Kenneth and Terry together locked up CJ and Bart. Afterward, Anna drove the truck to the back door of the mall, while Michael and Andre stood there to help the people on the truck get inside. After much difficulty, the people on the truck finally survived to get inside the mall, but they also brought terrifying bad news. Among them were 2 people who had been bitten by zombies, and an elderly woman was in extremely critical condition. When hearing the situation from those outside, everyone was stunned. They said that the entire city had turned into a giant slaughterhouse. The streets were full of corpses, and everywhere only death was wandering. The place Fort Pastor that Kenneth wanted to find had also been completely destroyed. At this point, hope for a safe place had almost disappeared. Anna tried to treat the injured, but right then, the elderly woman suddenly stopped breathing. Everyone was immersed in grief. Anna gently pulled a blanket over her face, but just moments later, that woman suddenly bolted up. Before anyone could understand what was happening, she lunged straight at Anna. Anna backed away in fear, then quickly picked up a nearby piece of wood and used all her strength to stab it directly into her head. At this point, everyone finally understood the truth. Any person bitten by a zombie would gradually turn into a zombie. This was exactly why this virus could spread across the world at such a terrifying speed. Immediately after, everyone remembered that the man named Frank who came with the truck had also been infected. Everyone began to argue whether to kill him or not. But meanwhile, Andre quietly left that place. No one knew that his wife, Luda, had actually been infected before as well. On the other side, everyone told Frank the whole truth. Seeing Frank tightly hugging his young daughter, no one had the heart to pull the trigger on him. But everyone understood that the time he had left to maintain his human form was not much. Before drawing his last breath, Frank hugged his daughter Nicole tightly and gently kissed her forehead. That moment was so touching that it brought tears to the eyes of everyone present. Kenneth tremblingly raised his gun at Frank, but he could not fire immediately. He waited until Frank was truly dead, and as soon as Frank turned into a zombie and made a gruesome sound, Kenneth was forced to pull the trigger. Afterward, the situation became temporarily stable. People gradually learned how to live in this new, death-filled world. Kenneth used binoculars to play chess with Andy, who was trapped in the building opposite. Some people went into the stores in the mall, tried on new clothes, and tried to make themselves feel happier. Terry and Nicole began to grow close to each other. Even CJ and Bart were no longer as harsh and dictatorial as before. Everything began to create a feeling that even in a world filled with death, humans could still find a little bit of joy. But that peace did not last long. One day, the entire mall suddenly lost power, and darkness enveloped everything. Everyone understood that if the generator did not work, their safety would also end. Therefore, a few people went down to the basement to fix the generator. As they slowly moved forward in the darkness, they suddenly saw a black shadow dash past. Everyone was terrified, but a moment later, they discovered it was just a small dog. Just as everyone breathed a sigh of relief, a zombie suddenly jumped down from above and lunged to attack Bart. Bart's scream rang out, causing other zombies lurking around to immediately emerge. In just a few seconds, the entire basement was swarmed with zombies. Kenneth and the others tried their best to escape from there, but Bart was trapped among the fierce zombies and could not survive. Meanwhile, in another place, Andre, who had been missing for many days, was hiding in a store in the mall with his infected wife, Luda. At this time, Luda was about to give birth, but her body was gradually transforming into a zombie. Seeing his wife's condition, Andre completely collapsed. A while later, Luda died, and then immediately came back to life as a zombie. But at this point, Andre's mind was also completely out of control. Andre used a belt to tie the mouth of his zombie wife shut and manually took the baby out of her womb. In his broken mental state, he thought that his family was finally fully reunited again. Just then, an elderly woman searching for them stepped in there. When she saw the horrific scene before her, she was terrified and immediately fired her gun, killing Luda. Witnessing that, Andre went completely insane. In his rage, he shot and killed that woman as well. The sound of gunfire caused the rest of the people in the mall to immediately run toward that room. But as soon as they stepped inside, the scene before them made everyone stop breathing. Blood was scattered all over the room. Andre and the elderly woman were both dead, but the true horror was not yet over. Right then, Anna heard a very faint, strange sound. She slowly pulled back the blanket covering the body of the baby, and in the next moment, everyone was stunned. Beneath the blanket was a newborn zombie baby. Its skin was pale and rotting, its eyes were not yet fully open, but having just been born, it was already trying to bite humans. Anna stood frozen for a few seconds, then with a heavy heart, she raised her gun. In the next moment, a gunshot rang out and the screen turned to black. Now everyone understood that the mall was no longer safe. Humans were slowly dying, their spirits were collapsing, and the number of zombies was increasing every day. Therefore, everyone organized a meeting, and there, only one decision was made. They must leave this place. At that time, Steve said that he had a marina on the shores of Lake Michigan, where a large boat was docked. If they could somehow get there, they could go to a small island in the middle of the lake to take shelter, because perhaps there would be no zombies there. Everyone immediately began to prepare. 2 large trucks parked in the mall's parking area were reinforced with iron and weapons so they could clear a path through the swarm of zombies. But right then, a new problem appeared. Their remaining ammunition was very low. In this situation, Kenneth remembered Andy, who was trapped in the building opposite and had previously run a gun store. There were many guns and bullets there, but when looking through the binoculars, they discovered that Andy was in extremely bad shape. He wrote on a board that the food had run out, and he was very hungry. The problem now was how to get food to him. Outside, thousands of zombies were wandering, and no human could walk there. Just then, Kenneth remembered the small dog they had rescued earlier. Everyone realized that zombies do not attack animals, so they tied a bag containing food and a walkie-talkie to the dog's back and released it outside. Amazingly, the swarm of zombies truly ignored it. The dog calmly crossed the street and went to Andy's building, but that joy only lasted for a few seconds. Suddenly, a zombie clung to the door, and then other zombies also began to flood inside the building. Michael immediately warned Andy over the walkie-talkie. And then the stupidest thing happened. Nicole, who was very attached to that dog, without telling anyone, drove a truck straight to the building opposite to save the dog. Afterward, through the walkie-talkie, everyone learned that she was still alive and hiding in a closet, but Andy had completely turned into a zombie. At this point, the people in the mall were not only angry with Nicole, but they also understood that going to rescue her was no different from jumping straight into the jaws of death. Furthermore, Andy was dead, which meant all the weapons and ammunition in the gun store were also at risk of falling out of their hands. After thinking carefully, everyone finally decided to go save Nicole. A small rescue team was formed consisting of Kenneth, Michael, CJ, Terry, and Tucker. They did not go straight across the street, but planned to use the underground sewers to get to the building opposite. In the dark and stinking tunnels, the group moved forward slowly in a state of extreme alertness. But right then, a manhole cover was accidentally moved and created a loud noise. Hearing that sound, the zombies above immediately went mad and rushed toward them. The group had to try their best to stay alive and ran inside the building. There, blood and corpses were scattered everywhere. Following the blood trails on the floor, they found Andy, but he was no longer human. He had completely turned into a zombie. Kenneth, seeing his new friend in that condition, was so pained that he broke down. But without hesitation, he raised his shotgun, eyes welling with tears, and finished Andy for good. Fortunately, Nicole was still alive. They found her hiding in a metal closet. Everyone quickly gathered guns and ammunition, but now returning was the hardest part. At that time, Michael came up with a very dangerous idea. He threw a gas cylinder into the middle of the swarm of zombies and then shot it to make it explode. The violent explosion blew away many zombies, and taking that opportunity, everyone rushed back toward the sewer. But bad luck continued to follow them. While fleeing, Tucker was bitten by a zombie and fell into the sewer below. From above, dozens of other zombies also began to jump down and flood in. CJ tried to pull Tucker up to save him, but the situation was completely out of control. Tucker understood that he no longer had a chance to survive, so he said a few last words and then gave himself up to the zombies so the others could escape. Meanwhile, at the mall, the swarm of zombies had also flooded inside. The entire plan began to collapse. Having no other choice, everyone was forced to climb into the two modified trucks and then use all their strength to break through the mall to rush outside. Initially, the trucks crushed the zombies and moved forward quite smoothly. But just a moment later, the incredibly dense swarm of zombies surrounded them from all sides, causing the trucks to slow down and making it almost impossible to continue moving. Just then, CJ threw another gas cylinder out and shot it to explode. The violent explosion sent zombie body parts flying everywhere, while simultaneously creating a gap so the trucks could continue to rush forward. But death still refused to let them go. A zombie clung to the back of the second truck. To remove it, an elderly man picked up a chainsaw, but due to the truck shaking violently, he lost his balance. The chainsaw blade accidentally slashed straight into her body. Blood splattered all over the inside of the truck, causing the people sitting there to scream in panic. While fleeing, the second truck suddenly crashed into a car parked on the roadside and flipped over. The people inside were seriously trapped, but CJ and Anna did not leave their teammates to die there. They stopped the first truck and risked their lives running back toward the flipped truck to save the people. It was also at this time that the ugliest face of humanity appeared. Steve, who from the beginning had been a selfish person, seeing death right before his eyes, completely panicked. He crawled out through the broken glass window, abandoning Kenneth and Michael, who were still trapped behind, and fled alone. As soon as Steve got outside, blood began to drip from above him. Before he could understand what was happening, a zombie lunged down from above and attacked him. Meanwhile, CJ and Anna tried their best to get Kenneth and Michael out of the flipped truck, but right then, Steve, who had now turned into a zombie, roared and rushed straight toward Anna. Anna did not hesitate and immediately shot him dead. But the sound of the gunshot immediately caused all the surrounding zombies to swarm toward them. The situation once again spiraled out of control. Michael and CJ continuously fired their guns to clear a path so the rest could escape. Finally, everyone somehow reached the harbor where the boat was waiting for them. But the swarm of zombies continued to chase behind. One by one, they began to climb onto the boat. Just then, CJ stopped. He understood that if no one stayed behind to block the swarm of zombies, no one would be able to leave alive. CJ stayed in the truck, creating an opportunity for the others to escape. In the next moment, a massive explosion rang out. The entire truck turned into a giant fireball, and the bridge was also destroyed and collapsed. This explosion blocked the zombies that were chasing them. It was CJ, who initially seemed like the most arrogant, hateful, and unpleasant person, who finally became the greatest hero. By sacrificing his life, he saved all the remaining people. When everyone had boarded the boat, Michael stopped again. He gently said that while rescuing Anna, he had been bitten by a zombie. Hearing that, everyone broke down. Anna's tears poured out because after this whole life and death journey, she and Michael had gradually grown close. Michael stayed behind on the shore, silently watching the boat drift away and then shot himself. This became the most heartbreaking moment of the story. The smartest, bravest person, who always brought hope to the group, finally could not survive until the end. It began to get light. The sunlight shone down on the lake, and for a brief moment, everything looked as if it had ended, as if a new life was about to begin. But the true horror was still ahead. Through camera footage, it was learned that Anna and the others had been drifting on the lake for many days. Initially, everyone was happy, thinking they had escaped, but then they discovered an abandoned boat. When they opened the freezer on that boat, inside was a severed zombie head, but it was still alive and growling. Gradually, their food and fuel began to run out. Just then, from afar, they saw a beautiful, lush green island. Everyone joyfully moved toward it. The place was strangely quiet, with no screams, no fires, and no death. It looked like the last safe corner left in the world. Finally, when everyone set foot on the island, they thought they were truly saved. But in the next moment, from the forest, hundreds of zombies running at a terrifying speed rushed straight toward them. Today's story ends here. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.